Chen Tao's Kanding love song. I understand your piece more.
陈怡姐，谢谢，好久不见。
Thank you, you guys, for your hard work. It's a premiere. It's the new version's premiere.
It's online premiere. Better turn off the cell phone.
Yes. Laura, could you please record it from your side, please? Hi, Rick. Hi, Lauren.
So you start recording, right?
Yeah, and also our friends from CUG, China University of Geosciences, the Dean of Media and Art School. And also I saw our provost, Professor Dyson Dobie's name here. Hi, Provost.
Hello, Daisy. It's a pleasure to be here. Such a wonderful event. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Such a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Daisy. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much for coming. Lauren is our Dean of Art and Design School. Hi, Dr. Yu, 于林老师，你好，谢谢您参加。Thank you so much for coming.
谢谢，你好，我把它 mute 哈。
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to put the poster because my
All right, it's time to start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second East West virtual concert and forum tonight. I'm your host, Zhongbei Daisy Wu. I'm a faculty member of Hofstra University's Performing Arts Division. And I'm the director of the Confucius Institute at Hofstra University, also known as CIAU. The mission of CIAU is to meet people's interests and needs for understanding Chinese language and culture. To better serve our Hofstra University and the local communities with a variety of cultural exchange programs, we are starting a new monthly concert and forum series named East Midwest Dialogue between Chinese and Western music. This program is a mixture of music performances, presentations, and conversations. Every month, we invite internationally recognized Chinese and musicians to perform their music, to exchange their artistic views, and to discuss the Eastern and Western music culture with our audience. Here, I want to thank our partners of CIAU, the China University of Geosciences, also known as CUG, and the China International Education Foundation. We also would like to thank the co-sponsors of this event, the Performing Arts Division of AU, the Music Department of CUG, the Almond 20th Century Club Library, the Cuba Circulating Library, the Hornell Public Library, the David Hall Library in Wellsville, and the Wyoming Dowsing Library of Connecticut for the great support. Here are some housekeeping reminders. This program will be recorded and broadcast online. Our audience will be muted, so please mute yourself. We encourage you to leave your comments and questions to the chat box. And my colleague, Susan Steer here, she is Assistant Director of CIAU, will address them for you. We will have a discussing and Q&A session in the end of the programs. So if you like to ask your question by yourself, please raise your hand and we will unmute you. Without further ado, I'm very pleased to introduce the two guest artists tonight. They are both flutists. They are both world-renowned artists from Bard College. So first I introduce Professor Chen Tao. He is a master of dizi, which is the Chinese bamboo flute. He is the music director of the Chinese ensemble of Bard College, the artistic director and the conductor of Melody of Dragon Inc., and the chairman of New York International Chinese Instrument Competition. Also, I'm like to introduce Professor Patricia Spencer. She is a highly acclaimed Western flute soloist and recording artist. She is a former president of the New York Flute Club. She has performed numerous premieres of pieces written for her by dozens of famous composers, both from the East and West. She also teaches flute at the Hofstra University. It's such an honor and a pleasure to see so many distinguished guests here tonight. But due to the limit of time, I cannot introduce all of them to you. But among them, I would like to introduce a very special guest to you, the world-renowned composer, Dr. Chen Yi. Hi, Chen 老师. Dr. Chen Yi is a member of American Academy of Arts and Letters and a distinguished professor at the University of Missouri Kansas City Conservatory. Tonight, our two flutists will work together to play Professor Chen Yi's piece. this will be the world premiere tonight. I know our audience are just can't wait to listen to it. So, but first of all, let's ask our two musicians to show their instrument, the similarity and the difference of their Eastern and Western flutes. So, hi, hi, Professor Chen Tao. So because tonight we have two Professor Chens, their last name the same. So can I call you Tao or Professor Chen Tao? So Professor Chen Tao, you have been called by the New York Times a poet in music, and you're playing miracle of Oriental flute. So maybe, but some audience are not familiar with your Chinese flute yet. Could you please show us a little bit and play something for us? Thank you so much. Professor Chen, you need to unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. So okay now?
Yes.
Sure. First of all, good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank you, Daisy, and thanks the Confucius Institute of Alfred University to give us this great opportunity to be here and with audiences from all the different places. I saw many familiar faces, my friends, they're here. So welcome and thanks for coming tonight. In the meantime, I'd like also to thank Professor Spencer for joining me tonight. It's my great honor to play and have a presentation with her, the world famous flutist. And it's my great honor also to have such a wonderful program, the East Meet West. The last, I'm so thrilled that the world famous master composer, Professor Chen Yi, also came to our show. I'm really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So thank you. And as you can see, I'm holding the flute. In Chinese, we call it dizi. The Chinese bamboo flute is one of the most important Chinese traditional instrument in the Chinese music family. And it has a more than 2,000 years history. And compared to the Western flute, later you're going to see Western flute. The Chinese flute is made of bamboo, and also we have 6 fingering holes with 1 blowing hole, and there's a hole in between the blowing hole and the fingering hole is covered by a very thin and almost transparent material we call the membrane. And the membrane is very special material. You could find in the bamboo. If you cut off the bamboo, you will see the membrane. I tried to show you. This is the membrane I got from the bamboo, inside of bamboo. So we use the special glue to put on this special hole, and when I blow the air into the pipe, it will vibrate and make very unique sound. And according to my knowledge, I think only Chinese flute using the membrane in the world, although different countries like Japan, India, Korea, even the South America, they use the bamboo to make the flute, but none of them using the membrane. Okay, another important fact is for the Chinese flute, we don't have the key on the body. Later you can see the Western flutes. So, which means it's much easier for us to make a very special sound, like a up sliding sound or down sliding sound. But on the other hand, it's also make us very difficult to make the chronic scales, which means half note. Okay, that means for Chinese bamboo flute, we are not easy to change the key. However, we do change the key, but sometimes we have to switch to the different flute with different key. And traditionally, the Chinese bamboo flute can be divided into two different styles, which we say southern style and the northern style. As people know, there's a very famous river, we call Yangtze River, from the west all the way to the east, and divided China into two parts, the northern and the southern. For the north area, you will see a lot of high mountain and with the desert, and the temperature usually is much colder than the south area. For the south, there's more rivers, but less mountain, and the temperature is warm. And also, even the people's lifestyle is also different, even with the people speaking the different dialects. All these different things will impact on the Chinese flute. So that's why we got the two different styles. Tonight, right now, first of all, let me show you, I have two different size of flute. As you can see, the different size. Usually, we're using the longer one, the big one, to play the song come from the south. And the sound usually need more breathing control. But we're using the smaller one to play the song from the north, and with a lot of we call the tonguing and fingering techniques. So now I'm gonna play two songs from both area, and during my playing, I like to ask everyone if you could write down any words, any sentence to describe what you heard from my music. Maybe just one word. So later, I would like to share with everybody to see what's the if we got the same word. All right. So the first piece I'm gonna play is from the south area. It's called the Trip to Gusu. Nowadays, Gusu is the name of a Suzhou with a lot of private beautiful gardens. So it's a typical southern southern style of flute music. Thank you. Thank you. So the next one is from the north area. I'm going to use the small one. So I guess after I play, you could immediately tell what's the difference between these two different styles. So, okay, the second one is called 五梆子. Thank you. Thank you. So I think you must can tell the difference, but let's go to the chat. I don't know if anyone write something. Wow, there's a lot, but clean, crisp, vibrant, natural, very good. Let me just read something. Somebody write the birds. I think that's because the north sound, and somebody like water and the wind. Yeah, very good. Phoenix. Oh, remind me of birds and the spring. And the southern flute and the song sound more rural and relaxing. Yes, that's true. And the northern sounds busier and perhaps even urban. Yes, very good. And wow, such a wonderful feedback. But I know sometimes it's really, really difficult for even for musicians to use the word to describe the music. That's why we call the music, the end of the language is the music starting. So that's why it's so difficult. But generally speaking, I would like to say the South music is more peaceful, more relaxed. And if you draw the line from the music, you will see it's kind of like water. It's elegant. It's a refined music. But since the North music related to the mountain, we have a lot of jumping notes. we call the jumping notes, and it's kind of rough and with a lot of energy. It's a much energetic sound, and you can also see there's a lot of bumpy sound because they're like the horse riding. So that's generally speaking. So we have such a different style for the Chinese and I mean for the South and the North music. By the way, I would like to just spend a little bit time to say the Chinese flute, we also call this one is a horizontal bamboo flute. But in China, we do have another flute. We call it the Chinese vertical bamboo flute. And this one, there's no membrane on that. Usually, if the instrument, there's no membrane, the sound will be more soft. And actually, this instrument we call the xiao or dong xiao. And back to the ancient time, is usually to play the court music, to play the classical music. But the flute, the horizontal flute, usually we use it to play the folk music. So now let me just play a few sounds of this instrument. So that's the song from the shell. So thank you so much. Thank you. So now I think it's time to let me to ask Pat, Professor Spencer, to introduce you the Western flute. Let's see what's the difference.
Well, thank you. Thank you for such beautiful playing. And
Thank you.
before I say anything more, I want to say that it has been really wonderful to work with you, Chen Tao, to work with you, Daisy Wu, and everyone who's been involved in this project. I say a huge thank you to everyone. It's been a wonderful treat. So as you observed, the dizi, which I'm trying to pronounce properly.
Yes,
has only 6. I think you said only 6 holes.
Right, right.
And I counted 17 on my flute. So we have all the chromatics. So we can play. We can play all of the half steps, and we could go higher and lower than that. Probably most of you do not need much of an introduction to the Western flute, but I decided if I'm going to talk about the American flute, I should choose an American composer. So I've chosen a very American composer, Aaron Copland, and he has a beautiful piece for flute and piano. Well, I have no piano, but the opening of that piece is without piano, and it really gives a wonderful example of the vocal quality, the expressive quality, the speaking quality of the flute. So I'll play that opening for you. And then Later in the same piece, thank you. Later in the same piece, he changes character terrifically. He goes into exuberance and uses similar musical materials, but really takes advantage of the very fluid and agile qualities of the flute. So this is later in the same piece. So that's another just a little example. Now, Professor Tao, I guess I don't know how to, Professor Chen, I have a question for you. The ornaments on the dizi are just wonderful, and they're like sparks. And I wonder if you can show us a little more about these. Do other Chinese instruments use these ornaments? They give a very special life to the music.
Yes. First of all, thank you, Pat. You have such a wonderful, pure sound from your instrument, from your playing. It's such a wonderful. And yeah, you just mentioned the ornaments. I use all, basically, we will add the ornaments to all different pieces, but based on the different style, we add different ornaments. Like Chen Yi's piece, we also add a lot. But I have noticed that you are playing that you try to imitate what I did in the counting, which is one. You did a wonderful job. You did a terrific job. Yeah. But for the ornaments, I would like to say that the ornaments are the style. Basically, all the Chinese instruments will add a similar ornaments if they play the same style of the music. However, each different instrument adding their own ornaments, adding the ornaments would be slightly different according to their specific playing techniques. So that's what we did. Thank you. Yeah.
Huh, huh. And I thought that maybe I'll talk just a little bit about the ornamentation that most Western flutes do. Most often we play Baroque ornamentation. So
could you please show us a little bit about the Western ornaments?
Okay. Okay, so the Baroque ornaments are really completely different. If your ornaments are like sparks, maybe the Western ornaments are like ribbons tied to the melody a little bit. And here I'll show you a short example from a sonata by Georg Philipp Telemann. Here is one of his phrases with no ornaments. And then here is the same phrase with some ornaments that Telemann wrote to show us how to do ornaments.
Wow. Wonderful.
And next is the same phrase with the ornaments that I very often play because I've studied Telemann's ornaments and I know that he wants us to write our own ornaments. So it's very similar and yet it's different each time. And we're very lucky, actually, that Telemann almost 300 years ago decided to show us how to do the ornaments from his era. So it's like artistic communication over the centuries.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Actually, Pat, after listening to your ornaments, I will also want to show some how do we add the Chinese ornaments. I would like to play one simple melody. First one is no ornaments, and the second one I will add ornaments. But the sound is called "The Spring Comes to the Xiang River" because today it's St. Patrick's Day, so I wish everyone have a happy St. Patrick's Day. And St. Patrick's Day, which means the spring is coming. So I would like to play this one. It's very short play. Yeah. So the first one is no ornament. It's like this is the main melody. So now I'm gonna add an ornament. I play just a little bit longer than the original phrase because as I know, Daisy is just came from that area. It's the Xiang River area. So back to you.
Thank you so much, Professor Chen. Professor Spencer, here's a question for you from Dr. Rick Stevens. For those who don't know, can you explain what's the definition of the ornament?
Oh, an ornament. Here is a note with no ornament.
What's this ornament?
And here's a note with an ornament. Any one of those little things is and can be an ornament. It's a very broad word. It means about 100 different things. So I hope that's helpful.
Thank you so much.
It could also be if I had two notes, if I were going, I could go, and that would be another kind of an ornament. Anything that takes the basic melody and makes something elaborate of it. It's sort of like flowers. Like if you have a beautiful plant and then it suddenly gets 10 more new flowers, those could be ornaments on the flower.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, amazing performance. Such a good enjoyment. And now let's have. I have something to ask to Professor Chen Tao about your life story. I learned you're very famous. If here I saw some Chinese names. Some from the China University of Geosciences. Maybe if you know a very famous song, 弯弯的月亮 from Liu Huan, that's in their melody played by Professor Chen. And he's very famous, and he graduated from the top conservatory for China, the Central Conservatory in Beijing. And he won the prize of National Music Instrument Competition. So I was wondering, Professor Chen Tao, what's the opportunity bring you to settle down in the U.S. and when? Could you tell us a little bit about your first concert after you moved to the U.S. and how was that?
To make the long story short, the first time I came to the U.S. was 1986. At that time, as a member of the Chinese music group from Central Conservatory of Music. and we have toured the whole country. And at that time, I had many chances to stay here in the U.S. because a lot of university offered me a scholarship. But after a long time struggling, I gave up the thought. The reason is very simple because at that time I just graduated from the Central Conservatory. So I think I need to continue study Chinese music in China. And also another very important factor to help me make a decision is by deeper understand the Chinese music and the Chinese culture. As a Chinese musician, we should be rooted in China. I should stay in China for continuing studying. However, after 8 years teaching in the Central Conservatory, when a friend of mine in New York asked me again whether I want to come out, then I think maybe it's the time for me to come out because I think I could use what I learned in China to promote the Chinese culture, Chinese music in America. So, and at least I can give a try. So that's the reason I came here in 1993. And the first concert, it was around the Thanksgiving, which is a month later when I arrived in the country. And I also, other than play a solo piece, I conducted the Chinese Music Ensemble of New York, the biggest Chinese orchestra with 50 musicians. And and that's the reason I came here. And after a few months later, I had my first recital concert in the New York Library in 1994. But I have to mention that my second recital solo concert is at the Carnegie Hall, which was sponsored by the New York Flute Club, which Pat is the president of New York Flute Club. So that's the story.
Thank you so much for sharing the story. So I know your root in the Chinese culture, and you have very rich experience, music experience both in China and the U.S. And you also have performance in many countries in Europe. How do you understand the music is a universal language, and what's for your opinion, what's the difference between the Chinese and the Western music? I have this question because I heard your speech at the international conference in Bard College 2 years ago, which you gave me a lot of inspiration. The Western philosophy said in the end of language is music, and your idea is in the end of music is spirit and the religion. So could you please share some of your idea of that and behind the music language?
Well,
thank you.
Well, first of all, we all know this sentence that the music is the universal language. That because when people listening to the music, they can understand the feeling of music without any language. It's by heart, by people's heart, and no, this feeling is across the language, across the boundary of the country, across race, age, and the different culture. That's the general speaking. Music is a universal language. However, each language has its own character. The movie, the painting, even the computer has its own language. Basically, we could say the Western and Eastern music. However, if we narrow down the concept of Chinese and Western music, I think we could say they are, first of all, they are based in the different scale. The Western music, they have 7 notes, or we could say 12 tones, 12 scale. The Chinese music, we based on the 5 notes. So that we call the pentatonic scale. And the music developing is based on the single line. And when the music develops, it's gradually change the music, change the feeling. And for the Western music, it's based on the harmonic. And they often with more or big contrast of the music. That's my thought. And the Chinese music is very close to the nature, not only because the material of the instrument, all the Chinese instruments was made from nature material, but the content of music, the music itself, is very close to the nature. So in China, we have a sentence is called the 借景抒情, which means through the nature scenario depicting conveys one's inner feeling or thought. So just like the traditional Chinese painting, the nature is always the main theme, and the man is always a tiny spot in the painting. So that also reflects the Chinese philosophy. We have a word, it's called the 天人合一, means immerse one's into the nature or combines human being with the nature. Yes, I made a speech, it's called Behind the Music Language, which means each different music. Behind that is the culture and all culture related stuff. For example, the Chinese philosophy, everyone knows these two words, yin and yang. And the yin and yang is the fundamental concept of the Chinese traditional culture. We know that yin and yang form the 5 elements, which is metal, water, fire, earth, and water, which refers to the nature. And we also know in our body, we have 5 organs, which is heart, liver, kidney, lung, and spleen, which refers to the human being. So the Chinese people, we also think there must be something as a bridge to connect the people with the nature. And that's the Chinese music. So that's why we have 5 notes. So it's very interesting, 5 elements, 5 organs, and 5 notes. And the Chinese music, the Chinese calligraphy, Chinese painting, the poetry, they are the separate arts. But when you play in the Chinese music, when we talk about the Chinese music, then they become a unison, and they are all connected together. So that's my view of the Chinese music. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And I have to just interrupt a little bit. It's just wonderful, very inspiring thoughts. What you're saying about the inspiration from nature makes me think of a very beautiful piece by Cho Wen-sung called Ode to Eternal Pine. And my group, the Capo Chamber Players, has played it, and it's a magical piece. And in his program notes, Cho Wen-sung talks about, and I quote, the expression of human emotion inspired by natural phenomena, close quote. So he's just taking exactly what you just said, the traditional expression from natural phenomenon, he's taking into a wonderful contemporary music, magical contemporary piece. And that piece, by the way, will be performed. There's a virtual performance coming up. I'll put a note in the chat about it later so that you can all find out about when that piece will be done if you're interested.
Wow, it's wonderful, Pat. You play a lot of Chinese music composed by the Chinese composer. So at this moment, I would like to ask you, Pat, what do you think the difference between the Chinese flute or the Western flute, or between the Chinese and the Western, in between the Chinese and the Western music? And what's your opinion, and what's the characters of the Chinese music, since you play a lot of the Chinese piece, and you even visited China?
I have visited China. I love it very much. So besides the ornaments that we spoke of earlier, I love the bamboo quality. I mean, it's a lighter, brighter sound with a very crisp attack. I really love that, and that's quite different from the Western flute. In the West, we have wooden flutes also, and I play a wooden piccolo. When I first got my piccolo, it felt very different. I suddenly could feel the vibrancy of the wood, the fact that it had once been alive. And I think I love that about the dizi. it just feels very alive and very, very vibrant. Also, just all the attacks, all the flutter tongues. We use flutter tongue also, but yours, it just sounds so exciting. It's so exciting. So, and about the Chinese music, in addition to the great vitality, and it is also, of course, very expressive, and it often tells a story. I think perhaps more often than Western music. I played the Chinese premiere of a concerto by Gay Genru with the Shanghai Philharmonic, a piece called Fairy Lady Mengjiang. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's a wonderful piece, and perhaps many of you know that story. The weeping of Mengjiang is given in one section with just the head joint of the flute, just this much of the flute, and with very many, very expressive bending sounds. I have not played that piece for 9 or 10 years. I tried it a little bit today and decided that I couldn't play it, but it's so expressive in the bending, the slides. I think the very expressive slides are, again, a characteristic of Chinese music. I know that Cho Wen-sung has a flute piece that opens up with pew, pew, pew. It's just so expressive. It's a wonderful characteristic. So I can't do justice to your question, but those are some impressions.
Great.
Hi, Pat. I have a question for you about since Professor Chen have mentioned your wonderful premieres. So I know your artist achievement. One of that was the premieres of works from the famous composers from the world, East and West. So I was wondering. Because the Western music often just named by genre and the numbers without a specific literary title. So like Chinese music will have the titles like 高山流水 or something. But how did you understand the music when you premiered those new works? Before you starting practice the piece, do you communicate with the composer about the meaning of that? Thank you.
Sometimes I love this question. This is a beautiful question. Sometimes I spend weeks just on the first page, and then I know from the music itself, how to proceed. Sometimes, of course, I do talk to the composers, and that can be helpful. Sometimes I imagine a poetic mood for each section. Oh, this section is like running away from a fire. This section is like running toward a fire because you can help, or something like that. But it often comes more from the piece than from the composer's instructions. And in fact, I know some composers, Joan Tower, for example, who work with the musical fabric of their own pieces. They get to understand their own piece, they finish it before they decide on the title. And they just kind of let the piece be itself. And I'm reminded that I read once that Michelangelo would study his block of marble that he was going to form into a sculpture. He would study it very carefully in order to understand the personality of the marble before he began his sculpture. So that's another thing. But to answer your question about communicating with composers, I love communicating with composers. I love rehearsing with composers. They always give me wonderful insights. And sometimes I even have a special request for a composer. When Shulamit Ran, a wonderful composer, was commissioned to write a piece for the Capo Chamber Players, I specifically asked her for something that would take advantage of the vocal, expressive quality of the flute. so many times the flute gets all these agile things, and that's all we get. We don't get the deeper expressive things. So in this case, I asked her for that, and she gave us a wonderful piece. She totally explored that aspect of it. Another example of a very special experience I have had preparing a piece was practicing Chen Tao's Kanding love song. And I practiced it. I knew, of course, the title, Kanding Love Song. So I practiced it. I thought it was lovely. I probably practiced it for at least 2 weeks. And then suddenly I started to experience the wonderful love that the piece communicates. I don't know, that comes from the music. It didn't come from the title. I knew the title way from the start. As I learned it, as I worked on it, I started to experience that love, and that indeed the piece is a love song. And that was a really wonderful experience. Thank you so much, Chen Tao, for
Thank you, Pat.
the piece.
Actually, by the date I receiving the invitation from Daisy, I think maybe that's the great opportunity for us to show the similarity and the difference between the Chinese and the Western Asian flute to the audiences. So and I met Pat 3 months ago. I think that's a great opportunity. So I invited Pat to join me for the program, and I had a piece I wrote many years ago. It's a Counting Love Song. It's for the Chinese flute duet. So I think probably we can use this one as to show how the Chinese and the Western music, Western flute combine together. So probably let's just listen to this piece first. And Neri, yes, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Pat, if I have to let you know, if I close my eye, I just listening, I couldn't tell the second part is played by American. It's just like
Oh,
the Chinese.
oh my
Yeah.
God. You have made my day. You have made my day. I worked so hard. It was so much fun to try to understand those, to try to understand the style. That is wonderful. Thank you.
I'm very appreciate your job because 2 months ago, I contact with Professor Chen Tao and talk about our plan for the East with Midwest program, and he's so excited to to looking forward, and he contact with Pat, and they start to practice 2 new pieces and premiere. This is what's a I cannot using any single word to express my appreciation for your wonderful job, for your contribution, support to this program. We such a pleasure to see to listen to this wonderful piece for the world premiere today. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
again.
I have a
Yeah.
question. I have a question for Chen Tao.
Okay.
When you play, I feel as if you are expressing love, love for life, love for the good things that people do, love for wonderful music, and your music is a special way of expressing that. Do you think that that is something that you can teach, or does the student have to be born with that incredible talent?
Thank you, Pat. Thank you so much for your wonderful praise. I really appreciate. I think we could learn from teacher. We all could learn from teacher is the technique, but the love, the expression of love, we have to learn from the life itself. Not necessarily from the good life, but sometimes the struggling life also give you a chance to show your expression of show your love to expressing your love. So, so show your love to the world. So that's what I feel. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
then I have one more question. That's a simpler one. And
Okay.
that is, suppose a student or a musician friend wants to learn this wonderful traditional Chinese style, but does not have the incredible opportunity that I had to play with you. Uh, are there teaching books or references, recordings that they could use to learn this?
Thanks again, Pat. I still remember that when you played the counting, you wrote down all the ornaments on your music sheet, and I feel really embarrassed that I didn't provide all the detail when I sending the music to you. That's because the tradition of Chinese music, or we call the traditional Chinese music teaching. Traditionally, we use an oral teaching method and students learn all the details from the master. So that's the most difficult part for learning the ornaments, for learning. Um, but I think because we don't put too much details on the paper, unlike Western music, they have a
Yeah.
systematic teaching method, but the Chinese music doesn't. Fortunately, in recent 30, 40 years, the teachers in Central Conservatory of Music and many other music schools in China, they realized that we need to borrow the Western teaching method. So we start now to do so. But honestly, this is still the most difficult part for learning. So which means you have if you want to learn better, you have to find a good teacher. Yeah.
Thank you.
I hope I answer your
Thank
question.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
I'm very lucky.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Professor Chen, I know you teaching online like youku.com for many years. Like from the start from the pandemic last year. Many of our music teachers start remote teaching online using Zoom. We are struggling with that, but you're kind of like a pioneer.
Yeah,
You started from
I started
10 years.
online teaching like 10 years ago at the UCool. So if you go to the UCool, you just click the 神州雅乐 in Chinese. You will find all my teaching class.
You put your could someone 高老师 could you put 神州雅乐 in the chat? Thank you so much. And I know you have a lots of instrument collection, and I know Pat very much like to want you show your very Asian Chinese wind instrument.
Yeah.
Right?
Actually, few weeks ago, Pat showed me she has a picture with the instrument. It's the one I'm holding now. This instrument that we call the Xun. Actually, is one of the oldest Chinese, not only Chinese, one of the oldest wind instruments in the world. The history dates back to 7,000 years ago, which we call the Stone Age. Yeah, but back to 7,000 years ago, I don't think that's the music instrument. Because at that time it's only with one blowing hole. It's made of stone, of course, and I think the purpose for the cavemen use is for to make a sound as a signal to alert people when they are hunting. I think that's the purpose. But because of the time change and the material change, and that makes people easier to draw the hole on the body. Maybe after 1,000 years later, they draw one hole. Another 1,000 years later, they draw the second hole. Until this one, this kind of shape, the one we already have, we have 3,500 years old. This kind of shape. So with 8 fingering holes, So actually, in 1986, the first time I came to the United States, I brought it out to United States to the Western people, and as a gift, I give one to our sponsor, the Asia Society, and I want to just play a few sounds of this instrument, let you feel what's the sound of this instrument. That's the song, and the people call it the song of ghost. Yeah. All right. I think.
Playing, and actually, when you I don't know if many people visited the Forbidden City in Beijing, and I know this Professor Chen's recording is the background music for the Forbidden City. When you entering the palace, you can probably you can listen to his recording of the flute, also the Xun.
Yeah, the melody I just played is called the Song of Chu, Chu Ge. And if you visit China, you visit Beijing, they always play they play the song in the entrance of the Forbidden City. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Professor Chen, I have a question for you.
Yes.
You're deeply rooted in traditional Chinese culture, and you're the 27th generation of heir of the Buddhist music of Zhihua Temple in Beijing, China, right? And in the other hand, you cooperate with many world classical symphony orchestras, such as the British BBC Symphony Orchestra, the Belgian National Symphony Orchestra, and the New York phonemic, etc. And I think you got a lot of influence from the Western culture and from the American culture. So what's the influence you get both? So I'm curious now, for you, is the dizi a traditional Chinese instrument, still a Chinese instrument, or you more like think it's like a word instrument?
That's true. I'm deeply rooted in the Chinese culture. However, since China opens the gate to the world, we have the obligation to promote the Chinese culture to the world. In the meantime, I think we should learn and accept anything good for us. In this case, it makes the connection between the Chinese culture and the Western culture. In addition, we are not those musicians who only focus on the tradition, but we are the musicians with professional training in the conservatory. So on the other hand, we are able to collaborate with other musicians, with the symphonies, to make the interchange with others. So but I'm clearly, consciously to know that the Chinese flute is still a real Chinese instrument, not a world instrument. However, just like the old saying goes, ethnic belongs to the world.
Thank you so much. I also learned you played in a lot of movie songs in Hollywood, right? That's just wonderful. I hope we know that piece is wonderful. And then I think the biggest thing tonight will be our premiere for Professor Chen Yi's piece, right?
That's true. That's true. I cannot wait to show people the one I work with Pat for for a long time, and we are anxious to want to know what's the feeling from Professor Chen Yi. So let's play that one. But wait a second. Before we play that one, let's read the notes first. Yeah. So then all right, so probably we can move on. Now let's play the one, yeah.
Thank you so much. Wonderful performance.
Let's continue for the second movement. Maria, can we have the second movement? We just the one we just played the first movement.
Oh,
yeah, I think maybe probably have some technical issue. Yeah, okay.
Bravo. Wonderful recording, wonderful performances. Thank you so much. Thank you. As I introduced to you, we are so pleased to having world-renowned Professor Chen Yi, great composer, to be here with us tonight. Professor Chen, could you give us some of your comments?
And excellent performance. And thank you, Daisy, Professor Wu, for inviting me to join the concert and to meet our friends and audience tonight. And also, thank you, congratulations and bravo to Professor Chen Tao and Professor Pat Spencer. I love your performance. This is the premiere for the new version because that piece was written for flute and piano, and with another version for two flutes, Western flutes. And so tonight is the first time we could hear that one for Western flute is still kept as the first flute part, and the other part. And now is the new part for bamboo flute, the dizi. That is exciting. It's the first time I heard that, and also I think that is a very great effect that you could meet. Also, Professor Chen Tao has a good, very good technique. So usually, bamboo flute cannot play many keys. You have to switch to other flutes in order to play in different modes and keys. And in this case, and he could do the technically very well, even not to mention about the style. But I have to say that Pat's style handling is fantastic, because although I have written down all the grace notes, the ornaments, because we study in this profession, we learn how to notate everything we know. And also in the Central Conservatory in Beijing, all the composition students would go to countryside to collect folk songs. We also notate everything, like a dictation things for whatever the farmers play, which I did here too. And also we learn those from books as well, how to tell different from different styles, play and sung in different locations, different provinces and different minority groups, ethnic groups, everything, including all instruments, including the flutes. And so that's why, and when Pat plays the score, it's already notated. Actually, it is imitating from the farmers playing. That's why you could see a lot of grace notes, which is taken from like a 20th century Western flute technique. And actually is learned from the farmer. and I should say that you have done it so well. And the combination of two of you, the interaction and the balance, that is doing really well. And thank you so much for your great performance. And if you are interested in all these three movements, the first one is from Jingpo minority group. All this in southwestern China. And the second movement is from Yi minority. And the third movement is from Miao minority, which would have a lot of sheng playing, like the mouth pipe organ. When they play the chords, blow and suck, wah wah like this. But now you have a single bamboo flute to imitate the whole chord. And that's why you are jumping around like this. It was played on the piano, but I also have one version for two flutes. So now you play that on the bamboo flute. I should say that you have done very well. And also for the decorations, you go up and down. We have to switch some pitches because the flute could play a lot of chromatic scales, the pitches, but the bamboo flute may have to deal with some pentatonic or diatonic pitches. So we got to fix a little bit in order to fit the needs. I think that is very effective. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Professor.
you, thank you. Such a wonderful piece. Actually, tell you the truth is, during I play this piece, I keep bothering Chen Yi, Professor. Keep bothering. I email her, and to be honest, I learned a lot from Pat and from Professor Chen Yi. So the reason is they are so professional, and when I email them, I couldn't they return me email right away. It's just like she is sitting next to me, Yeah, every time, and even Professor Chen Yi changed the some notes for me, and even she changed in the score. She sent me the score. So let me see all the details. So I really, really appreciate, and I learned a lot from both of you. Thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it.
And I love it. Chen Yi, I'm so pleased to have played it in this version because compared to the version with the piano, there's no comparison. The dizi is just perfect for a partner. It feels wonderful. I hope that we'll have a chance to play it in the same room sometime.
Yeah. I told Pat when the pandemic is over, so I hope we can perform together in the same stage.
Yes.
So the live, yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah, because I know both Professor Pat Spencer and Chen Tao very well for many years from their performance. Sometimes I don't get to see them, sometimes like 20 years, but I do love their performance because when Professor Pat Spencer talk about the composers, one Professor Zhou Wenzhong is my professor, and then she has a premiere a concerto by Ge Ganru, who is my schoolmate at Columbia University.
Oh my God.
I know all of them very well, and also Professor Pat Spencer has played with a Chinese ensemble, music from China, many times, and so I do know her excellent performance for many years, and her ensemble, the Capo Chamber Players, also perform my works in New York, and so I love her performance always. And Chen Tao, I don't need to mention that because we were schoolmates in Beijing Central Conservatory. We don't know how much new music he has played, and also how excellent he played, because he was first prize winner before he even came here. So I appreciate it really much for your great performance tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Chen, Professor Spencer, and for your great comments and such wonderful performances. It's such an honor to listen to two pieces of the world premiere tonight. Wonderful, wonderful night. And we for the audience here next month we will have Professor Han Mei to show us the guzheng, and Professor Liu Xiaofen will show us in the May, show us the pipa with her partner, the guitar player from America. And in June, what's good news? Professor Chen Yi and her husband, Professor Zhou Long, wonderful composers, will be our guest in June. So we're so looking forward for June concert. So if you want to follow up our East Midwest concert, please do to send us some email to ciau@offer.edu. Nerea, could you please put the email address there, and then when our audience, our friends send us an email, then we can reply them for next month's the concert. Thank you so much. We do learn a lot from the American culture. As a Chinese musician, I work here, and for 10 years, I learned a lot from my colleague from the performing arts division of my colleagues here in Hofstra University. I know today I learned a lot from Professor Pat Spencer. And this is what a wonderful exchange. And thank you so much. I think now is time for Q&A. We don't have much time, but I would like to see who want to have questions. If you want like questions, you can raise up your hand. And Susan, could you please pick up some of our questions from either from the chat or from the audience who raised their hand? Thank you so much. Any questions?
One question that was asked, how did they make the recordings when they weren't playing in the same room? How did that work out?
Okay, we can both speak about that, but Chen Tao sent me a recording and a click track, and I sent him a recording and a click track, and I practiced with my earbud. I practiced with him every day, all day, if I wanted to. I mean, that's the advantage. But it's a tremendous disadvantage, of course, because you can't really tell how loud someone is playing. I mean, it's just so, it was difficult.
Could you explain what a click track is? I never heard that term before.
Oh, it's a record. Go ahead.
Actually, when we record it, we wear the earphone, so you won't come out the click sound. And but it's really difficult for us, and actually for all the musicians, you know, because nowadays the technique is still not good enough for us to do. We just see like actually our recording, the picture, the video is. It's better when we look at than here. It's better than here. So which means the quality from the Zoom is not good. Yeah, but the Pat ask somebody in Bard, really professional one, to make the to put these two videos together. Yeah.
So a click track, just to be very pedantic for a minute, a click track is just a series of clicks that tell you exactly what the tempo is, maybe bum, 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 and then if it gets slower, I have a click track program. I can tell it to go a little bit slower, to change tempo immediately. So it's a very handy click track, especially for Chen Yi's piece, because the tempos change all the time. But then what was interesting also, this for those musicians, Chen Yi's piece, my part is often very free. So some of the time I was just totally ignoring the click track, but nevertheless, somehow we came out together. So got very lucky. So.
Any other questions? So we're...
One other question, are there other composers who use these two instruments together, the dizi and Western flute together, or is this a new, unique thing?
I think it's a unique thing, a new unique thing for me. But I used to play with shakuhachi, the Japanese one shakuhachi, but never play with the Western flute.
I have certainly never played with the dizi, and I love it.
So this is truly the first time, yeah. Truly the world premiere.
I just wanted to say something, if I may. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to brag a little bit because Pat has been my teacher for many, many years. So I know her playing. But like many of us, you know, the whole political climate and all the differences and everything that separate people, when you two were playing together tonight from two totally different, maybe not totally, in many ways, very different cultures, your souls came together. And that's what makes all the difference in the whole world, you know. It's just, I just want to thank you. So moving and inspirational and humbling, because both of you are very humble. And that's where true brilliance, I think, comes out of humility. And I'm just so moved. And I want you both to know that. And I hope you do this at Bard so I can come and see you do it. you know,
we
when
hope so too.
when you're together.
When we can have open concerts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, if East can combine with West, cultures can come together, and it's the answer. It's not the ego, it's the soul that is the whole common denominator. So thank you so much. I'm just so moved. I really, really love you and appreciate you, and thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And I have to say one word. It's like I think I have to thank Professor Daisy Wu, and thanks on the Confucius Institute to give us truly, really a great opportunity to, you know, that's the meaning. I think it's beyond the program itself. It's truly a deep conversation between the East and the West. So we both learn each other. And I think this kind of thing, this program will, you know, affect in the future for a long time, I think. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Daisy.
Yes.
Wonderful and inspiring.
Thank you all so much. We spent a wonderful night. We learned so many things from each other, and I'm so appreciate many friends here tonight be with us. So okay, I hard can say anything. I'm so moved by your spirit, by your music, and I hope to see you next month, which is April. We will send out the emails and the invitations to our friends. And thank you so much for coming. Happy St. Patrick's Day. So
thank you.
And
thank you to
yeah,
everyone.
thank you
Thank
so
you, all
much
of you.
for coming. And we hope you can send us some suggestions and any comments to ciau@offer.edu, our Confucius Institute email address, and then we'll see you next month. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Daisy, you're amazing. You're just
Oh,
amazing.
I appreciate your support. You practice so hard, so many times. So
I enjoyed
I
enjoyed.
By the way, Daisy, I would like to know how many people are here today.
108.
108. Okay,
Yeah.
great, great.
Mark, thank you so much. Our Dean of College of Business, Mark Lewis. Dean Lewis, thank you so much for joining us here. And Professor Patricia Gang here, and Professor Yuan Yue from COG. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pat, again.
Thank you. My gosh, it's so incredible. Incredible.
Sorry, I'm so touched, so I
honestly, I don't want to leave.
My language is so limited. I need learn more English from Susan. Give me more English class so I can.
Actually, thank you, Susan. Thank you, Susan, for your help, and thank you, Neria, for helping us.
Yeah.
Wonderful program. Thank you.
Neria and Susan, thank you so much for your job. It's so
It's turned out so beautiful. I'm just so happy to have been a part of it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, I'll let you go and have a good night.
Okay, good night.
Will we be able to have a copy of everything that's been all the comments?
Sure. I will send you the raw copy right away. But we hope we can edit it in somewhere, because of, you know, the videos we share is not some very good quality.
Right. Yeah,
we will have a good design and broadcast online in the summer. But if you need the raw copy right away, we can send it to like Google Drive. We can Google Drive to share with Pat and Professor Chen, right, Neria?
Yes, yeah.
That'd be great. That'd be great. So we can see the right away.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. That'd be wonderful. thank everyone. I see many friends out there. I can't name them all, but I see many friends. I'm so pleased.
Mr. Xu, and I don't know if I know him. Hi, Mr. Xu. Are you a friend of Professor Chen? Sorry, you muted. Let me ask you.
Yeah, I saw many familiar faces today.
Yeah, so many familiar faces.
Yeah.
Susan, another Susan. Hi.
I'm in California.
Hi, Mr. Xu. Are you friend of Pat or are you friend of Chen?
Chen Tao, yeah, Chen Tao's friend.
Yeah.
Oh.
And also Wang Ping. We met in Alfred. Yeah.
First, thanks. They gave us a big opportunity to, we listening the traditional music and the Western music again.
Thank you.
Tonight, when I listening the 康定情歌, love story song, use Chinese flute and Western flute.
Right.
I feel I really touching, and I feel the heart. As you said, the Chinese music from the heart and use the natural material.
Right.
That's really, really wonderful for us. And by the way, thank you very much, Patricia. And tonight, when you share the English about Western English or music, I feel when West met the East style of the music. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm so pleased you enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Wang is our teacher of the Confucius Institute. He made our news and WeChat posters too. So many thanks to Wang Ping.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Daisy.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Have a good rest.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
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 Bye.